Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you in another video. All right, so what was I gonna say? Started the camera off, had a certain point I wanted to say, but I think I'll just freestyle it. I'm listening to Stephen A. Smith. Basically, he was making a point to say, I'm gonna ignore all in regards to the past, in regards to Kyrie Irving. The one person that I might have gotten in the way of them getting the bag is Kyrie Irving because of the whole situation with the vaccine. But I'm ready to get that out the way. I'm ready to put that aside and uh, assess Kyrie only from this point on. I think that's a nice point of view. You know what I mean? You want Stephen A. to take that point of view if you're on Kyrie's side of things because you realize that he has, self-admittedly, gotten in the way of what Kyrie has tried to accomplish financially with his team based on the notion that he doesn't come to work, which is something that Stephen A. has made it a point to let us know when conversations are brought up about Kyrie's name. I have taken to this camera a couple times and have said I didn't like the narratives that ESPN is pushing because they're basically saying that the Nets are going to win or have a chance to win or whatever that position would be because Kyrie Irving's going to be the motivating factor for which that would happen because of his drive toward his contract situation. And my thing is, you stepped all over his contract situation. Well, I guess I wasn't the only one echoing that point because it got to Stephen A. And he's addressing it. It didn't sit right, man. I hate to say it. Look, and this is coming from somebody who actually initially felt like Kyrie was taking the wrong approach. Because of the specifics of what we were dealing with, I didn't like the fact that he was going against the vaccine at the time. That was literally my point. I'm like, yo, all of that makes sense, but being a contrarian when lives on the line is a bit it's the wrong approach because if you're wrong, it costs lives. That was my thinking, and that was my point of view until I heard what he had to say about what he was doing, and to this very second, that's still kind of how I feel about it. But at the same time, it's like I was listening to some other folks, and they were saying some things in regards to Kyrie Irving's approach, and it was like, look, you think for yourself. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you stand on your square. You're taught to stand on what matters, and sometimes you end up losing more than we want to. And you have to learn what battles to choose and which ones not to choose. If Kyrie were raised in my household, the household I was raised in, then he probably would have taken a different position because the possibility of influencing others to their doom would have taken precedent over the possibility of saving others from their jobs. You see what I'm saying? Because those who are choosing not to go toward their jobs are ultimately taking a risk that if they're wrong about, again, cost people lives, weaponize yourself against grandma, all the different things that they told us about COVID. So I'm looking at it like, okay, you can be a contrarian if you want to. But if you're wrong, what does it cost? And so that was my concern. Now that it's played itself out, I don't know. What did it cost? He didn't take the vaccine. I didn't take the vaccine. There was a lot of people who didn't take the vaccine. I think at the end of the day, we still don't know what the heck is going on with COVID. People are still getting caught up with COVID. It's still necessary for us to be knowledgeable, and it's still necessary for us to be guarded against this thing because at the end of the day, it took us by storm. We appear to have a hold of it, but we also don't really know everything we need to know about this thing, even now. So the average person doesn't anyway. I'm sure scientists who are studying the thing obviously know what they need to know, but like that information is not as common as it needs to be even now in terms of what all we need to know about COVID. So, I'm gonna piggyback what that person said in the comment section. Sometimes when you think for yourself, sometimes it goes right. Sometimes you just learn that maybe your position wasn't the one you should take. I don't know what Kyrie learned in this position, but I know he's paying for his position. That's the key to it. I don't know that he changed his mind about the motivation behind what he did or how he did it, but I know he had to pay for the consequences of it as if it were a mistake, and that's the point. And look, he said he was doing this for long-term, historical. I don't know the words he used, but it's not about today. It's about how this looks later. When you look back in history, the stance that he took, it was about something bigger than today, you know, and so it just cost this. He still has to try to fight for what it is that he's owed, though, in terms of his finances. And you know, this is where it becomes a situation where you need a guy like Stephen A, who's been speaking this way, to now change his tune. Now that things have changed, now that everything has paid itself out, now that all of this is as it is, there's no COVID to assess. So whatever Kyrie's about in terms of playing basketball, it shouldn't be COVID keeping him from it. So that's really what it is. I don't think Stephen A can do much harm with the truth going forward, which is we just have to wait and see. You know what I mean? No, he can only do damage without, you know, with what he was continuing to do in regards to just speaking as if the man ain't never gonna come to work. So now it's up to Kyrie. You know what I mean? Give Stephen A, you know, less to say about not being available, if possible, I guess would be what I say. I think people are waiting for Kyrie to choose something other than basketball, and I just think that the lesson for Kai is to say, I would say, is probably, if you're not ready to sacrifice basketball while you're in, as I like to say, between the paywall of the NBA, try to do as you've been doing over the last couple of weeks with the Nets. I think that's kind of how they want you to play it. Now, when real stuff comes about, you got to be your real self as it pertains to stepping up and speaking out. But I think, you know, to value the art form more is what I would tell Kyrie. You know, you made a lot of sacrifices for a lot of people. You know what I mean? And this pertains to what he's doing. But I have to agree with Shannon. I think it was Shannon who said this, but I don't know who it was. But this is the point. And I've said it too on this camera. You could do a lot more good with the money that you earn than you can with the stance that you're taking in this situation. Because that's what it really comes down to. He can do more with the money. And you can earn $100 million, and there's so much he can do in regards to donating that money and fixing up situations, you know. That's probably the way to try to help, I think, while you're in the NBA, is to try to garner as much from it, you know what I mean? And not only in finances, but in experience, because this is your walk, you know what I mean? You're a basketball player who has a very special gift, you know what I mean? So it's like, if you feel like you found a niche in life where you're really, really great at something, and you're really, really successful at it, and you're really, really centered in that space at the right time, it's almost like when you believe in the Lord, you believe in energy, you believe in all those things, and it's time to acknowledge that this moment is captured temporarily. And you got to, as you captured the moment to be on your square, to stand on what it is you believed in, so to capture the moment to be that artist that you can be right now. Because once you start getting older, it's much easier to take certain stances, much more difficult to stay in the NBA. Feel me? So that's what it really comes down to. Once he's my age, 38, 39, when them basketball days is over, he could take the millions of dollars that he's made, take the passion that he has for the different topics and things that he's focused on, and really throw himself into it in ways that maybe wouldn't be possible without this current focus. You know what I mean? So I think that's the wisdom, I think. You've sacrificed for everybody else. Now it's time to balance that out by giving Kyrie Irving an opportunity to be an NBA basketball player again. That's what I would tell him. You know, that's exactly what I would tell him. A lot of times we overthink life sometimes. It's like, oh, you know, I'm good at basketball, but I want to be greater. Yeah, but basketball is what makes you able to be able to touch other things. You know what I mean? It's like some of the walks he's in, the why people are able to listen to his voice and capture his message and come to opinions whether they agree with it or not, is because basketball brings us to you. You feel me? So like, to walk away from basketball, you know what I mean, or to put that aside, to try to center on your voice, you take away that voice when you take away basketball. So that's what I would tell him. And that's not limited to him, of course. That's anybody who has a voice and has their talent. You know what I mean? It's like, this is what makes you available to us. You know what I mean? Some would say the word relevant. I don't like using that word, but it's represented in this point. This is what gives us that a vision of you, So that's what I would tell him. And anyway, at the end of the day, Stephen A. Smith said he's gonna back off. We're gonna hold him to it. We're gonna hold him to it, and then we got to hold Kyrie Irving. He's gonna say you're gonna play basketball. We're gonna hold you to that. It's like it is what it is. As somebody who wants him to be a Laker, you know what I mean. I'm not worried about how I feel about Kyrie. I'm worried about how the rest of the Laker nation and Jeannie and all the people who matter, how they are taking to Kyrie. And if they think he's not going to be somebody who's going to be able to be a good representative of the team on their business or what have you, then it doesn't really matter what a fan wants. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter if we think he's someone who could help us. At the end of the day, if he's going to push others away, then he's going to find himself away from others. And see, that's the thing we always got to remember. We want people to help us do things, but then certain things push us away from people. We got to push it. I can't get with this, so you got to go away. And then you look at another group, I can't get with you, so you got to go away. You look around and you're standing by yourself. And that's what you don't want. Or you only got a couple people around you because there's only a couple people you can get with. But what you need in terms of what it is you're trying to do is a lot of people. You know what I mean? It becomes that situation. You push away everybody and you have nobody. So it's like, that's what I would also tell them. Like, don't push nobody away, you know what I mean? In the midst of trying to reach the people that you want to reach. The NBA is trying to reach everybody. It's a different, and it's a different audience. So it's a broader audience. So in reaching that audience, just like I've told you guys once before, if I was speaking to 1 million people, I would have totally different things to say than I have to my own audience, So it's an understanding of what your audience is listening to, who your audience is, and making sure that what it is you want to reach whom is not reaching more than it's supposed to in certain situations. And I think that's what it is for Kyrie. They're worried that his message is going to reach more people than his message is intended to reach. You know what I mean? I think that's what they're worried about, and some of the stances he takes. And it was something else. I think it was Nick Wright said something. He said something that was very true. And that is something I mull over a lot. Because as I've meditated over the last several years and looking at myself and how I am, just me personally, I think I tend to do what Nick Wright described. And not in his fullest way, but in my own way, and I'll explain. Nick Wright said something along the lines of, in a statement, he said, you got to be, and he was talking about Kyrie, I believe. He said, you have to be smart enough to know what it is that you do not know, so that you don't speak to things that you do not know, and so on and so forth. That was his point. You got to know what it is you don't know. If you're not aware of what it is that you don't know, you can find yourself speaking on things and leading people in the wrong direction. So, understanding oneself, I know that I've been in this apartment, sitting in this apartment for a while now. Living the way that I've been living means that I haven't been out touching people, talking to people. So when I speak of certain things, I need to understand that what I understand is what is in my head and what is given to me through my phone. If I'm in certain settings, I would have a better understanding. Like, even though my mind is very vivid and can give me all different types of stuff, one has to understand the difference between the information that I have, also known as my tea leaves that I always tell you guys about, which are things that are tangible in my head that I can hang my hat on, versus the things that come from that, things that I'm reading into. One has to know the difference. Because a lot of times you'll be looking at so many different things, you'll be like, okay, that is fact. No, that's not fact. That's something that you gathered by putting two tea leaves together. So when you look at things that way and you have a brain like this, or when you're the type of person who reads a lot of different things, but the things that you read, you tend to hang your hat on without doing full information to find out if it's really true, or to find out if the person you're quoting is not a horrible human being. Like, those are things that give you credibility. Those are things that people like myself need to hang our hat on and make sure that we are much more thorough when we're sharing certain things, so that what it is that we're looking to share is received in a way that everyone can palate. Because even though an open-minded person like myself may be able to listen to something from somebody I don't agree with and receive the wisdom from it, the world ain't like that. And they will shut their ears to you and that person. And that's exactly what happened to Kyrie Irving when he shared whatever it is that he shared on IG with that one guy. I don't remember his name right now, and I don't want to bring it up because he's a bad guy from what I understand. But point is, Kyrie had brought something up on his IG that this man had said, and so on and so forth. Now, when I listened to it, I told you guys, I broke down the entire thread. I didn't just look at that particular thing that he posted. I looked at everything he posted that entire morning to get a fullness of what it was that he was, what it was that he was trying to convey that day. And to be honest with you, that was just probably the least important one of them all in regards to what stood out in my mind. But that's not the point. But because of who he was, people ran with that. So for a guy like Kyrie Irving, his intent was for us to get the message. But the world only received the messenger. Right? You learn that lesson and the world kills you for it. You know what I mean? That's the type of stuff that he runs into. By being a free thinker, it's like, okay, yeah, you're free, but you're trying to reach people whose minds ain't nowhere near free. You're trying to reach people whose minds closed and uptight and wrapped up in narratives and norms that are that were handed to them. Like, you're looking to reach people like myself who are making it a point to question just about all of that and filter it through a mind that can. But not a lot of people have the time, nor the effort, nor the energy, nor they got family. They got a lot of different stuff that they won't allow them to focus on right now. So they're not going to. They're going to listen to what Stephen A says, and they're going to look at what you're doing. They're going to say, whatever Stephen A said is in my head. That's right. That's him. He's right. His opinion is mine. And so when you run into that type of thing, right, it's hard to win if you're a guy like Kyrie. So I get it, man. I totally get it. That's why it's like you got to pick and choose your battles. You stand on your square, you make sure that the people who are listening care. Straight up. Make sure those who are listening care. And if they don't, then you need to get up and take your soapbox somewhere to where people do. Because if you're screaming and hollering where people don't, you ain't going to get the energy you're looking for. You know what I mean? And most importantly, those who are supposed to hear you may not. It is that simple. That's what I've learned, man. And last but not least, when you use their platforms to push your message, there will be some pushback. Because it's their platform. At the end of the day, even if you're pushing the most amazing, positive, wonderful message for your people, they're standing on a different side of the room. They got different people, and they could care less. And that's what I've learned. It's a cold world when it comes to good and bad, because a lot of people don't interpret good and bad the same way. What's good for me ain't good for you. The people you trying to protect, they want to kill. It's literally that kind of thing in this world. And the older you get, the more you realize that. And so, you just like, all right, like I said, just make sure your soapbox is positioned in the right place so people who are supposed to hear what you got to say and who will receive it properly get it. So that's something that I've had to try to work into my equation and learn in various things, get more thorough in what it is that I'm doing. But I'm also watching Kyrie kind of play it that way, and the consequences come from it. That come with that come at him. It's just about taking the passion you have for the messages and making sure you can disarm those who would otherwise kill the messenger. You know what I mean? You gotta filter better, get smarter in terms of how you get that to us. Don't quote that guy. Let the quote come from you. You know what I mean? You take what you saw from him and you let it come out of your mouth. And that way, nobody can say, oh, he's quoting a bad guy. No, you took the wisdom from it and made it so that the mouth that was speaking it was a better mouth. That stuff matters to people. And I think there's some credibility to that for a lot of different reasons. But for a mind like mine, I was raised to believe that Satan could recite the entire Bible backwards. Take that for what it's worth. In other words, any positive thing that could ever be said could be said by the enemy. Anyone can read a script, and if you're colorful enough to write it, I can make it believable. Because I'm a writer, so I think I can write a believable script, and 9 out of 10 times, you may believe it. So this is one of them situations where, if you're just going to roll with that understanding, you kind of vibe with that, then you know that there's no real way, honestly, to just win this situation if you're Kyrie Irving. You essentially just do the best you can, learn your lessons, move forward, and let the rest fall where it is, fall where it may. In regards to the money that you lost is behind you, the contractual stuff, all of that is now about what happens from here. I think Stephen A extended an olive branch, not just from himself, but from those he represents. And that's just my theory. This is just my speculation, as I always do. But as I told you guys a million times about him, Malik Andrews, and others, I don't think they speak for themselves. I do not think they speak for themselves. I think if they tried to speak for themselves, they'd be reprimanded. We've seen that happen many times. So, judging by what I've seen, nobody's been reprimanded. I don't think anything's been said that anybody doesn't like. Just because we don't think they like what they see, I think ESPN's just fine right now. But back to what I was saying. I think they're offering olive branch to Kyrie Irving. I think they see that they need Kyrie's talent. I think they see that they don't want to send him where they need to send him in order to make him happy. And ultimately, that doesn't make their team as good as it needs to be. The best path they have forward is keeping Kyrie Irving. And they have to come around to psyching themselves into making that make sense. If you guys really want to know what I think the Brooklyn Nets and all their cronies, trying to psych themselves into thinking that the path they're on is the path they should stay on. Because if you look at it for what it is, that's only halfway something that you can believe in. Their roster situation. And their team spoke to that. They know that. They're not singing the we're going to win a championship tune, which is something I respect. But at the end of the day, still got championship now, win now talent. And so it just becomes about what it is you really want to do. If you're going to hold on to Kyrie Irving and you're not going to pay him, and it makes no sense to keep him, as I've already said. So if you take this stance and you give him an olive branch, maybe if you lower those standards, he can meet them and you can find yourself in a position to want to pay him. That's what's happening, I think. And I hope it works out for Kyrie. I really do. I think for myself, as a Laker fan, I'm over their charade. I'm over it. I don't think it's going to work. But from where I'm standing, it makes sense to them for them to try it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, if we're gonna find ourselves in the dumps as a worst case scenario, we might as well see exactly where this can go, even if it ain't very far, even if it's not to where we want it to go. It's a lot better than what we're forced to do once we decide this thing isn't what it's going to be. So I get where they're coming from. I'm just annoyed by them personally as a Laker fan. But all in all, hopefully this little olive branch that he's receiving can go toward him getting that contract, and they don't backtrack and start working against him. But I don't believe they'll do that unless he gives them some ammunition. We always say this: don't give your enemies your ammo, man. Do not give enemies ammo; they'll shoot it back at you. So that's what it is. Stephen A. Smith will sit back and chill. But if Kyrie Irving gives him any ammo, he fired at him, and we know it. So that's on Kyrie, man. The ball is in your court once again. If you could just play 82, regardless of what team you play for, if you can give them all you got, I think you'll have a great chance of getting this contractual situation going in your favor. I really believe that. I think they'll come back around and give him his money because plan B and C sucks ass, to be completely honest with you, for the Nets. It's bad. It's real bad. And no matter what, here's the deal. This is the deal for the Nets, and I think they get this probably more so now than they did earlier in the summer. They got to focus on other aspects of their franchise in terms of developing other aspects. Talent, young guys, get their whole young crop of kids going. Resetting can help them do that, but keeping this timeline can also, they can still get that done while keeping these guys there. And so if I'm the Nets, I'm saying, all right, now resetting does give me an opportunity to make it all right. I can grab everything, make it all, get a bunch of young players, all that. The problem is if I don't have the infrastructure, not to say that they don't, I'm just saying if they don't, that really cultivates the young talent and turns them into their best selves, then wouldn't it make sense for me to take a year or two and develop that before going into the initiating phase of rebuilding? You know what I mean? To get the scouts, hire the best scouts, get the infrastructure, even get a new facility, whatever it is. I can do all that while KD and Kyrie are running around on a team that's not quite good enough. You feel me? Ben Simmons, not quite good enough. And I can just get enough young talent in the second round and behind the draft, just like the Lakers did. Get more Deron Sharps. Get more Thomases. You know what I mean? Just enough of those guys to where they get good enough, just like the Lakers' young players, to where you have a solid enough team around whatever stars are in place. Because right now, that's their problem. That's their problem. They can get a young core, or I mean, they can keep this core that they have, championship level core, but the role players, right? So that's really what it's about. Because they don't have their picks, they don't have a path. Like next year, they don't see themselves getting significantly better or anything like that. So it's one of them situations where it's like, all right, we got these max contracts, got about 4 young players we're excited about, maybe 5 from this draft, got them all in place. Now you just gotta let them get older. Do we have to get rid of Kyrie, KD to do that? Not necessarily. Unfortunately, as a Laker fan, that's the truth. Not necessarily. So that may be what they're looking at. That may be what they are assessing right now. They're saying all that we need to do can still be done while they're here. So that's unfortunately what the Nets might be looking at. So unless people start kicking up dust saying they want out of there, they may be looking at a situation where they just say, let's just hold it on. Let's just see what happens. Let them run around. If they get as far as they want to go, great. We look like heroes. If they don't, we're still working behind the scenes to make ourselves a bit better of an organization just in general. A couple years past, we're getting closer to getting our picks back. Boom. Now our young players are a bit older. Claxton's turned into what he's supposed to. Thomas, Sharp, etc. These guys gotten older and better. Some of these older guys that we got right now, maybe they've shaved off. We got some more young players. You can see where the Nets can build over the next several years. Even if Kyrie bounces, they still got a path. They strip everything away like I'm telling them to do, they're going to suck for show for a little while. They get better, but they'll suck for show. And then even then, you bring those young talents in and you still don't really have, that infrastructure I'm saying they need to build, which I'm not sure they don't have. I'm just assuming they don't based on what I've seen. So either way, that's what it is for me. I think the Nets take a couple seconds to just get some things straightened out, and it is what it is. So that's what I gotta say, man. If that's something that Katie and Kyrie want to be a part of, and they can play together, you know what I mean? Maybe they can take it as far as they can go, But I just think that they're looking at a situation where they should be expecting to leave the playoffs in the second round. Just like that's about as far as you expect to go. So hey, I'm just being real. It is what it is. So that's my little spiel. That's what I got to say, man. Trying to get on here and just run my mouth, as I always do. Hopefully everybody's having a fantastic day. As a Laker fan, I would love to sit up here and say, oh yeah, it's all great. But we just have to do what we have to do. The circumstance is the same for us. What we're looking at right now was the same thing we were looking at 3 months ago, unfortunately, in regards to our situation. So nothing's changed. We got to hold our picks in our Westbrook and see what the Nets do. And if that ain't the move, I'm already starting to scout other moves. Got one with Chicago, you guys. If those 2 picks can't get us Kyrie Irving, they may be able to get us Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan. So, that's the reality of it. That is the reality of it. Now, so I already started scouting what else them 2 picks and Westbrook can get us. And that might be something to watch. The Chicago Bulls might actually be interested in doing. If we add a third team, take Westbrook, or maybe they take him themselves. But the key in that situation is to come out from under Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan's contracts. Now, why in the world would they want to get rid of DeMar DeRozan, MVP candidate, blah, 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 all that? Because $80 million is being siphoned from their roster with Lonzo Ball being out indefinitely with what looks like a catastrophic, maybe even season career-ending knee injury. Prayerful it's not career-ending, but Vucevic is somebody they're probably not going to want to keep. He's on a 2-year deal. And, DeMar DeRozan has always wanted to be in Los Angeles, and he's always been a part of what the Lakers were considering when having LeBron James part of his team. So this will give us an opportunity to get both of those all-stars and only have to give up the 2 picks and Westbrook to get them. Now, I don't know if Chicago will be up for that. I don't know. But it does make a lot of sense for Chicago when you're considering trying to come out from under that cap space and having it come off of your books at the end of the season as to what you have $46 million to add to what it is that you have. Maybe that helps you stretch Lonzo Ball. Maybe that helps you acquire more talent. But the point is you'll have that cap space that should help them significantly in what it is they got going on. Because with Lonzo looking like this and him just now very recently signing that contract, that looks like one of the worst contracts in the league. Literally. Because I don't know when he's coming back. It ain't going to be soon. So You know, that's something people are looking at. So if the Nets aren't willing to give us Kyrie Irving, what I'm telling you is there are better deals than the Utah deal and the Pacer deal. We just have to wait and see what comes about. So I don't like that. I want Kyrie on this team, but everybody over in Brooklyn seems to be on a path forward. So if we have a plan B, it needs to be better than plan Bs we've been looking at. And that Chicago one, yeah, that looks a lot better to me. So that's what I got, man. That is what I got. 30 minutes to talk. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Preseason's begun yesterday. It started up in China. Saw a little highlight to that. Kuzma and Wiseman dunking on people. Real nice stuff. And, yeah, it continues tonight. Of course, the Lakers don't start up until the 3rd. But, yeah, we're close. Video 44. Thank y'all for watching.